Hi everybody, welcome to our webinar. Thanks for joining today. Today's webinar is called Rapid Report Assembly with IBM Cognos Disclosure Management. It will be delivered by myself, Kristen Brown of Ironside, and Lindsey Hansen of IBM. My name is Ray Haddad and I'm an Inside Account Executive at the Ironside Group. Here's our agenda for the day. First we're going to run through some intros, which I just did. Then we're going to go through some upcoming events led by Kristen. After that, Lindsey will take over Report Assembly, Vision 2014, and any questions that you might have. So I want to give just a little bit about the Ironside Group before we jump into the webinar from IBM's perspective. We were founded in 1999 as a Cognos partner. We then transitioned over to IBM when IBM acquired Cognos in 2008. Our headquarters is in Lexington, but we have offices in Austin, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Detroit, and New York City. We're about 120 employees strong now. What this slide shows you is our main practice areas, which lie throughout business analytics, predictive analytics, performance management, and information management. We're a full service company across those practice areas, meaning we offer software resale, consulting, training, and managed services. In 2013, we were the #1 IBM software reseller in the country. We've now achieved premium partner status, which means all of our consultants and sales teams are certified by IBM. We have 120 employees, like I mentioned, over 80 of whom are consultants. Our training practice area was the largest in the country last year, and we also have a managed services practice where we can host and or manage our clients' environments. Our goal is to have the in-house expertise across multiple industries, functions, and technologies that gives us the ability to create solutions for each unique business problem. It's that focus that's helped us achieve number 566 on Forbes' fastest growing company in America list in 2013 and number 7 recently on DBJ's Pacesetters, and also IBM Business Partner of the Year award in 2013. So that's a high-level overview of who we are and what we do. And now I'm going to hand it over to Kristen.
Thanks, Ray. So my name is Kristen Brown. I'm the Marketing Events Manager with the Ironside Group. I'm just going to take a couple minutes here to let you know how you can join today's discussion. If you are on Twitter, you can follow @Ironside Group and tweet us with any questions throughout or after. You can use the hashtag IBMCDM. In addition, there is a questions panel on your screen. All of the questions can be filtered through there, and at the end of the webinar, I'll go through all of the questions. Some of our upcoming events, we have regional events throughout the East Coast and Great Lakes. Here's an overview of some things we have going on over the next month. More importantly, we're going to go over this at the end. Lindsey's going to touch base on IBM Vision, and if you are attending, she has some sessions she thinks that are valuable, and in addition, briefly talk about how you can register and how you can attend one of our events while we are at Vision. If you are interested in going to Vision and you are interested in going to our event, you can visit our website and you can send us a question through the question panel, and we'll be in touch and get you started. So now I'm going to pass it over to Lindsey, who is the Worldwide Product Manager for IBM.
Great, thanks Kristen, and hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining today. I'm sitting in an office in Toronto, Canada, and it's rainy and it's pretty cold out today. So I thought we'd start with a slide about lemonade because I'm very looking forward to spring this year. So thanks everyone for joining again. Lindsey Hansen from IBM. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Cognos Disclosure Management. Been working in this industry for quite a while now. Worked with some competitors and some interesting small magazines, and now here I sit at IBM. So let's kind of reset and let's talk about who you likely are on the phone. I think we have about 25 folks on the line right now, and likely you're from finance or IT. You could also be from a line of business such as HR, sales, or operations. Really the common thing between all of us on the phone is that we put together these lengthy, reoccurring, multi-author reports or presentations. And it's not just once. We have to do it periodically, say every month, or every quarter, or yearly. It could be to our management team, just a PowerPoint presentation that's due monthly, or it could be something that an external regulator requires of us. such as if I'm an airline, I have to submit a certain airline form 54 periodically. So basically, we're kind of all tasked with the task of creating these reports. And so why should you pay attention? Hopefully this is your lunch break and you're eating a sandwich and drinking some coffee. But also, you know, we've been there. We've seen our clients likely where you are today, and we're here to show you there's an easier way to generate those recurring multi-author reports. Also, at the end of the presentation, I'm happy to answer any questions, so you can start logging them in the chat, or as Kristen was mentioning, there's a few other methods to get the conversation going. If I can't answer your questions, I will get back to you over email the next day, so you'll have your questions answered. All right, so let's take the reporting mountain that we all face and try and make something positive of it. So we'll make lemonade out of lemons. We'll go to the next slide. So here's what we're all facing today. Number one, we have way too many applications in our business. So Hackett Research did a study last year, and they found that for every $1 billion in revenue, a company likely has 44 financial applications to use. That is so many tools. That's so many places where data is stored. That's just a jumble. The point number two is that these processes, in order to create a report, are labor intensive. So per $1 billion in revenue, 91 finance staff on average are required. And finally, we have so many reports. Not only is our management team coming down on us to generate more reports so they can have a good sight line into the business, but also external regulators are producing more report mandates daily, pretty much. So knowing that, here's an interesting figure. It's 74% of managers cited that they're still using personal productivity tools in order to generate these reports. So just, you know, personally, I use Microsoft Excel to create my personal budget. And that is the same tool that folks are using from giant companies across the world to generate their external reports or internal reports. I mean, that's just simply not scalable. So there is a better way. Let's go to the next slide. So we're being positive here. These challenges represent potential. So what are folks doing today in order to make to spin this into a positive thing? Number one is they're employing a repeatable process. So just as Henry Ford came up with the assembly line in order to create a car quicker without errors, just the same thing, that's what people are doing today with their reporting. So instead of navigating gaps in the production of recurring reports over and over again, they're just employing this repeatable process, which I'll get into in a few slides. Next, they're streamlining report assembly. So instead of having about 27 versions of a final PowerPoint presentation, for example, instead we get to have one. And the folks that need to work on their specific slides of that presentation can just simply log into one area, and they can make their edits directly onto that page or that slide. And so we're not dealing with, you know, 27 PowerPoint presentations plus Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint files. And finally, we make better decisions by automating. And that is because we are not just spending time interpreting data, such as charts or graphs or just data points, but we're actually getting our story written for us. So I'll get into how that works later, but just know, you know, by automating, you can make better decisions faster. This slide is one that I think is my favorite slide, and it's really just a reset. You know, as I mentioned, there's about 25 of us on the phone. We're coming from all different companies and industries and different job roles. But when we really look at the map of reports that a company creates, it's really using these columns. So we have a bunch of management reports that our company needs to create, some internal reports, we have external reports. Potentially, we have some worldwide tagging requirements, which is XBRL. And finally, we likely have some close, consolidate, and report requirements as well. So I'm in marketing, and I have to create a monthly management report using some data internally and also provide some commentary. And so I would fit under bucket number one, which is management reports. So take a look at the list. I mean, this is definitely not comprehensive, but when we look at the list of customers that use CDM today, IBM Solution, really, they're likely doing these things or others just like this. These are just report types. And how are they creating them before CDM? They were cut, copying, and pasting. Let's go to the next slide. So today, if you're not using an automated solution, this is likely how you would put together a management report, for example. So let's pretend all the way over to the right, that man handing in a report. Pretend that's a management report, and it's a 57-page Word document that's due monthly, for example. So where do we get the data to put in that report? Look all the way to the left. These are example source systems where that data could lie. So it could be in a consolidation system or an ERP, OLAP database, or a data warehouse. It could even be in a spreadsheet on somebody's hard drive. So the data could be in one or many of those places right now. So then my third question is, how do you get that data onto the screen into Word to start writing your report? You likely copy, paste, right? So what happens if a number changes in your source system? You're likely going to have to somehow be alerted to that change. You're going to have to go into your PowerPoint presentation or your Word document and update every instance of that data. And then also, any commentary or narrative that has been written around that data has to also be updated. So for example, if a week into creating this report, a number suddenly increased, we need to update that number manually, but also any instance of commentary we need to update as well. So we need to say, suddenly the number increased from last year to this year. So all of that plus reviewing, so plus having your manager review your section or a specialist work on their component of a final, all of that has to be done just over email or using a USB drive or a hard drive. So folks are just simply emailing their version back and forth, and somebody is amalgamating all of the final sections of a report, likely just before deadline. So I could have made the screen really messy, but I kept it tidy. But you can imagine, the back and forth that goes on when you're creating a simple management report, for example. All right, I'm going to move on here. So whatever the bucket your report that you likely identified with fell into, they all equal the same thing. They all produce the same problems. And that is, folks are spending way too much time doing low-value work. So they're entering data, they're typing text, they're editing commentary, and they're validating that the data is correct. There's no time for specialists to make their insightful decisions, because these are the folks that are doing an update with 10 minutes left before deadline. It's a slow, manual reporting, reoccurring process, Numbers or facts within the final report could be out of date before the report is even published. I alluded to that, but this is really important when you're talking about external reporting requirements. A company could be penalized by having an incorrect data point. And finally, there's just no compliance or control during the close to disclose process. So what could this look like with an automated solution? So this is the title of our presentation today, and it's Rapid Assembly of Reports. And really, the end goal here is to drive understanding. So take a look at number one. This could be the way that you put together a report from now on. So all of your experts are collaborating simultaneously, meaning that everybody has their own login to CDM, Cognos Disclosure Management, and they simply just log in. They have access to the one section of the report that they're required to edit or review. Number two is the best performance insights are cross-functional, meaning that when we get to work with people in other departments on a report, we really can see the broad picture. And so by having folks work from different sections, we're able to get that big picture view. Three, instead of just surfacing a chart from an Excel pull from your data source, you can actually figure out what did that chart look like last time we filed compared to this time. And the So basically, you're not scrambling to find out, did that number go up, did it go down? You can easily see, basically CDM provides that information for you. And finally, and maybe the coolest part, is that the story, the narrative, can actually write itself. So as I'd mentioned, as long as you're linking your data to the source system, data points will always be up to date in your final report or presentation. And the best part is the commentary associated with that data point can also be automated, meaning that if the data point went up this time, then the verbiage or the commentary beside that data point would say increased or decreased. So it's pretty cool. So that's a screenshot there. There's two screenshots. The first is, a type of document that could be produced in CDM. That could be a quarterly report. And then there's a picture of a PowerPoint presentation that would be used right within CDM. And those yellow highlighted parts are actually linked to your data source. So you could produce weekly, monthly, quarterly board books and presentations, C-suite and board packages, performance reporting from BI, for example, and so much more. All right, I'm going to move on. All right, so let's get into how people are actually using CDM today. So I have 4 case studies that I'm going to go through one by one, and all 4 case studies are actually available on IBM.com. So if you want to download, you can read more information about each one of these particular ways of using CDM. But let's start with financial reporting. So with my spring theme in mind, we have Lion out of Australia, who's a beverage producer, beer in particular, which looks very delicious right now. They ended up saving 12 days of manual work per reporting cycle by employing CDM. Also, they saw IBM or CDM as a best-in-class solution for reporting, not just for external reporting, but also for internal, or we call it narrative reporting. And the reason we call it narrative reporting is, the big part of putting together a report for internal purposes is really that narration or that commentary that needs to flow between the numbers and graphs. And finally, it massively reduced the total workload. So Lion had a business challenge, which was to transform its finance function. And its analytics journey was really to automate any of their financial reporting by streamlining the last mile. Basically, once they set up their report or financial statement once, it was automatically ready for the next period with data points tagged to source systems. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. All right, let's talk about a financial close management use case. So just as folks were using CDM for financial reporting, what about using CDM and IBM Solution for Close, Consolidate, and Report, which is called IBM Controller, to totally streamline financial close management in your company? So Walter Mayer, that's a European company, they achieved full independence from third-party reporting support. Their ROI anticipated 3 years, and they feel that their automated solution is just very reliable these days. So they had that business challenge that likely you've faced or you've fixed but used to face, which is just generating those financial reports, but also streamlining the close, consolidate, and report process. So their old process was manual, inflexible, expensive, and prone to errors. And then when they took on a journey with IBM, employing CDM and Cognos Controller really enabled them to generate their financial reports without external help. Okay, moving on. This is an interesting case study. It's 3 out of 4 here. IBM is actually IBM's customer in this instance. So IBM came up with a solution paired with Deloitte, and it uses IBM Cognos Disclosure Management and also IBM TM1, and IBM DB2, and IBM Business Intelligence as well. And basically what it does is it helps IBM internal finance automate the production of tax and statutory reports. So these, you can imagine, IBM is a huge company, and we have these 2 big departments, tax, and then we have statutory. And folks were using similar data points from both departments and producing their reports and it was sort of, we were doing double duty. So we ended up streamlining the storage of the data between both departments, and we were able to streamline the creation of reports for both stat and text requirements. So what did it do? It simplified and streamlined data gathering. It empowered our IBM's own financial analysts by eliminating their work. And finally, it's expected that we're going to save millions of dollars on staffing, consultancy, and audit costs. So that's an interesting one. If you're on Google right now and you want to check it out, it's go to IBM.com and type in Accelerated External Reporting Solution. It's a long word, but it's AER Solution. And finally, the last use case is one, if you're in the U.S., you might be very familiar with, and it is one of our customers uses IBM Disclosure Management Solution to meet the SEC's mandate for XBRL. So their ROI was 51%, payback was 1.8 years, and anticipated annual benefit, $212,000. So before, the company was trying to figure out how to meet the SEC's XBRL mandate. And in order to do so, they looked at a few different types of solutions. They looked at, simply sending all XBRL tagging out of house. Then they thought about employing a bolt-on solution, which would just be, a simple solution for just including XBRL tags within final reports. And then their third solution, which was us, was employing an integrated solution for XBRL tagging. So not only are they able to insert their XBRL tags while they're producing the report, but they also get this great reporting platform for any other report they do in their company. So just as I'd mentioned before, they could be doing their XBRL tagging in financial statements with CDM, but others in the business could also be generating their management reports through the same solution. Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about IBM Solution then. So the beginnings of this slide look a bit like my problem slide a few slides back, but really, IBM offers a comprehensive report lifecycle tool. So leave the data where it lies today. One of the quotes that we use internally is, we've never met a data source that we can't connect to with CDM. So you have extensive data stores, I'm sure, right now. So leave your stores where they are, and CDM will simply connect to them. So it could be one store, it could be multiple stores. And by employing CDM, you get access to compliance checklists. You can employ your own business rules, and also you have security as well, meaning that the only people looking at those reports are the people that you've allowed. So there's different users with CDM, and I won't get into detail, but there's an administrator license who allows, who dictates what user sees what aspect of a report. So if you don't want everyone seeing all 51 pages of our final report, you just simply limit their access. So who is accessing CDM? Anyone you want. Contributors. That could be our subject matter experts. Document managers, reviewers, and auditors. And so in the end, what can you produce? Literally anything under the sun, but here's some examples. Performance reports and presentations. We talked about monthly board books already. CEO and CFO packages, KPI reports, and I already spoke a little bit about tagged XBRL reports as well. So what are the capabilities and benefits of using CDM? Number one, and this is one of the biggest things, and it is a complete report production management lifecycle tool. That is a mouthful, but that really is what it does. It's an end-to-end manager for any report that you create. So from the day that you start typing it to the next period where you simply roll it forward, to any time anyone needs to review it. If you ever want to find out who made a change in your report, you have a lengthy audit trail to look back to. And you can find out the exact day, the exact time that somebody changed one aspect of the report. Another cool thing is we allow version compare. So if I have a final version of a report and I want to compare it to 2 versions back. I can do that side by side. That's pretty cool. Also, workflow. CDM has this cool feature where you can go in and dictate, what happens to a report as it goes through review and then approval. So you can dictate after this section is finished, the writer will submit it for review. The reviewer will then would get a notice that it's ready for their review. They'll review it, and then when they approve it, we know it's finished. And there's a nice little dashboard that shows you exactly what's finished and what's pending in a given report. Streamlined assembly of reports and presentations. We talked about that. You would save a ton of time just by getting it done once and then just rolling that report forward for next time. Automated text and narrative generation. This is a really cool feature as well. Talked extensively about this already, so I won't talk about it anymore, but just know that the story can write itself when you employ a reporting automation tool. We allow for management discussion and analysis. And finally, you can publish to any regulator, shareholder that you need to. And we talked a bit about XBRL as well, but a CDM allows for integrated XBRL. So what are the benefits? When we go back talking about Henry Ford, it's similar benefits to what they found from an assembly line, and that is allowing specialized professionals to work on their one component of a final product. Decrease production costs for organization. Ensure quality, so no errors. Automation to reduce cost, human error, and improve speed. And it offers control, audit trail, transparency into each step of the reporting process. And the last feature that I didn't talk about yet, which is, IBM CDM can be deployed on the cloud or on-premise, depending on your needs. And one of the coolest parts about this is that if you deploy on cloud and then your needs change down the line, you can easily switch to on-premise. And it's not a full rip-replace of a solution you're using in-house. It's the same code. CDM is the same code for cloud and on-premise. So if you want to deploy on-premise today and then maybe down the road you go on cloud, you can do that too. And just a little boast for IBM, we have over 100 solutions on the IBM cloud right now. So why IBM? There's a lot of competitors out there in the marketplace, but we've found success for these points and more. The first being that we are way more than a point solution for a single pane or mandate. I talked a little bit about this, but we do, for example, XBRL tagging, but we do so much more than that. So folks that have purchased CDM for a mandate, such as XBRL, find that they end up using CDM for that and for internal reporting, a regulatory requirement, and they use it in different departments across their business. So it's really, it's so much more than a point solution. We also include enhanced integration and workflow. So I talked about the workflow. That's just something that's pretty unique. Also, we integrate with data sources from here to Timbuktu. As I mentioned, we have a metadata source we can't connect to. So you get to leave your data where it is now. Report lifecycle management and governance. That is just, we do everything from the moment you start writing your report to the moment that it's finally reviewed and approved. All of that can be done in CDM. And we've had great relationships with analysts who report favorably on our product and on IBM as well. We've been in the space now for a long time. I actually used to work at Clarity, and Clarity Systems had Clarity FSR, and then it moved to being Cognos FSR, and now we call it CDM. So CDM has been around for as long as this market has been around, so it's sort of the tried and tested solution. And finally, if required, integrated tagging in-house, EDGAR conversion for SEC filings, and proven parameter-driven financial consolidation. If you're interested in that too, IBM connects nicely to Cognos Controller. All right, so that's the end of my first section of the presentation. Now we're going to switch gears and we'll talk about an event that's coming up. So I know some of you on the phone are actually presenting at the event, and others might not know what Vision 2014 is. So I'll just give you a 30-second overview. So Vision 2014 is a conference that's being held May 18th to 21st in Orlando. It's pulling together performance management professionals, so that's finance folks, it's some sales folks, it's risk folks, to talk about their use of analytics within their job role. So it happens from the Sunday onto the Wednesday, and there's a bunch of sessions. We're aiming for 50% to be delivered by customers. So if you aren't using an IBM solution today but want to make it down to Orlando, you can spend all your time listening to current customers talk about how they were you, and now they're finding some savings in time and money. So that's a recap on the event itself. If you're already going, I highlighted some sessions here that I think would be interesting to attend on this topic or similar topics. The first being management reporting. Let's stop reinventing the wheel. It's really a step back and a review of how reporting is created in business today. We also have a couple of customer case studies and what you need to know about SaaS. That is everything you need to know about deploying an on-cloud or SaaS solution. I know that's sort of the trend companies are now, instead of purchasing on-premise, they're thinking about on-cloud these days. So it's just an interesting subject matter, and if you want to find out more, you could go to that session. We're also streaming the initial main stage presentation live. So if you visit our website, which is, I think it's vision2014.com. I could be wrong. You'll have to Google it. You can find out more information on that live streaming from the event. So Ironside is having a special event Monday, May 19th. Kristen, do you have any more information on that? Do you want me to pause?
Yeah, so we're actually just hosting kind of like a cocktail event and dinner at the JW Grand Lakes at Primo, which is a restaurant there. We had an event there last year. It was excellent. And you know, if you are in the area and your agenda is free that evening, we would love to have you there. And again, if it's something that you are interested in, my email is right there, kbrown@ironsidegroup.com. Just shoot me over a note if you're interested, and I'll get you more info.
Great. I've also put some special event stuff on this slide too. Oh, sorry. Next slide. Here we go. So we've actually rented out Marvel Superhero Island for one of the nights, and so that'll be pretty fun. So all the attendees of Vision get to go on the rides and have a reception, a cocktail reception over there. We're also, we have a few special guests. Amy Mullins, she's a double amputee. I think she's a model, actress, and Olympian, and she's doing a presentation, and also Mark Brody. Mark is sort of, he's reinvented Moneyball, if you're familiar with that book or that movie, but for golfers. So he'll be doing a presentation on how you can improve your golf game with analytics, similar to how we improved hope to improve our baseball by employing analytics. So that is Vision. There's a website. I'm going to jump to the next slide. If you can't make it to Vision, we're also hosting these road shows called Finance Forum. They kicked off at the beginning of last month, and they're going throughout the world. They're one day, typically a dinner event that are happening in various cities around the world. And it'll be presentations like mine, but that go into more detail, all about performance management and business analytics from IBM. So you'll also get some demos of the product then. You can speak to product management and product subject matter experts. So have a look if you are interested and see if there's one coming near you. Just click on that link or type it into your URL. Okay, that's everything. We ended a bit early. I'm going to pause for some questions. Thank you.
Hey, Lindsay, one question came through. It's a little long, so I'll read it, and if you need me to shoot it over to you so you can read it, let me know. But the question was, have there been any increases in processing time? Updating and running reports currently takes too long. When reports are run for selected items, there is no label or date printed on the report. This just causes more work. Just wondering if improvements like this have been made.
So I think what I'll do is I'm going to go to our product manager and ask that question, and I'll get back to you over email. So I'll take that in, and I'll find out the answer. Obviously, that's a current customer, and we'll be happy to get the answer to you as soon as we can.
Okay, great. Some other questions that came through are some companies are outsourcing components of the disclosure management process. Some are using SaaS solutions. What is the difference?
So for IBM, there's really no difference at all to the end user. I think I mentioned this a bit in the presentation, but it was really, there's no difference to the end user. If you want to deploy SaaS or on cloud, the benefits you get are likely a faster ROI. So instead of having to go through and do a full lengthy implementation, we can just spin up an instance of CDM and you can get to work faster. It's also lower risk and lower cost because you're paying monthly. Also, it's cost accounting, so it's not a big overhead. You can file it under your cost accounting. Also, likely with SaaS, you could bypass IT backlog. And I mentioned this, but that's the freedom of choice. So if you deploy on-premise and then down the road you want to deploy on cloud, you're free to do so with an IBM solution. And it's also scalable. So if you just have a few users today and then you end up using it in 5 departments in a year from now, that's something that we can easily accommodate as well. And then finally, wanted to remind you that IBM has over 100 cloud solutions or SaaS solutions. So we've been there, done that, and there's a ton of solutions hosted on the cloud today worldwide. I hope that answered that question.
What are the biggest differences between CDM and Cognos FSR?
That is a great question. So the answer is there really isn't anything now. So back in September, we stopped selling FSR and we pinned CDM as our go-forward solution. So we, just in the last couple of releases, have made certain that, for example, folks in the UK that had a particular requirement of FSR, it's now available in CDM. So we are equivalent, and then we're striving to be better than ever with CDM going forward. So if you have any particular questions, though, I'm happy to answer them over email about specific requirements you potentially used to use in FSR and where they landed in CDM.
Okay, great. Another question that came through is, in our organization we have multiple report owners. How does a report management process manage multiple owners and requirements?
All right. So yeah, several people can own a report at once with CDM. So I mentioned there are a few different user types. So user type admin, they would assign all owners to the document. And then the contributors, or the users, would then be assigned to only the sections that they need to see or work on. So contributors then are really those specialists that we talked about. As for requirements for audit trail or workflow, so the audit trail is automatic and the workflow is customizable by you. So you just tell CDM who needs to see that document, I guess first, second, third, and then who finally approves it. So I hope that answered that question as well.
Okay, and one last question that's come through is, IBM CDM, can it be implemented without XBRL? What value does it hold for an organization with and without the XBRL piece?
All right. So yes, the answer is definitely yes. A lot of companies, it's actually funny, just more and more recently, are buying CDM not for XBRL, not for an external requirement at all. They're actually buying it to automate their internal reports, so their management reports or their performance reports. So yes, the answer is yes. Full report production lifecycle with CDM. If you have an XBRL requirement, then even better. You can employ some integrated XBRL tagging while you're creating your report. But definitely all the value statements or the capabilities I've mentioned through the presentation are all valid for folks doing internal reporting or narrative reporting only, but also external or disclosure management reporting as well.
All right, Lindsay, that's all that came through for questions. So I guess if anybody else has any questions, maybe it comes to them later, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. And Lindsey, if there's anything else you want to add, then
no, I just want to say thank you. Thanks, everyone, again, for listening. And I'm always available for questions, or Kristen. And thanks for spending 43 minutes with us today.